maybe two people have the similar issues, but they're not same. When you start to ask them, when you start to go deeper into the conversations with them, and the results that they will get and the solutions that they will get will be so different from each other. And I think that's the beauty of this profession, is that while we all will get ACC certificate credential or a PCC credential, but then that same credential can do different things for different people. It's not a one size fit all kind of a thing.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining in from. I'm Kiva from Coacharya, and really good to have you all here today for our last webinar of 2022, which I think is going to be a super exciting one, because as you can see, we have a very exciting panel set up for you here. We have a facilitator, Komal, with us. We have an alumnus, Meenakshi, with us, and we have a current learner, Gurbinder, with us. So really happy to have you all here today, and really excited to see what kind of a conversation, what kind of learnings we have from you and your experiences of coaching in the different spaces that you've all been in. So as people are still joining in, it'll be great to also hear from our participants on where they are coming in from. Do share with us your name, where you're joining in from. And as everyone is getting in, how you all feeling? Meenakshi, Gurbinder, Komal.
Hey, let me go first then. So my name is Gurbinder Punn, and if it's difficult to pronounce, GP is the short form that Coacharyas know me for. Doesn't stand for general practitioner, it's just a short form of Gurbinder Punn. I am joining from Muscat, Oman, and it's pretty evening now with a hot weather outside. I work as a CHRO, and currently I am pursuing my PCC. I'm a ACC coach.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gurbinder. So glad that you could take the time out for us today.
I'll go next. My name is Meenakshi Iyer, and I am based in northern part of Virginia in the US on the East Coast. So it is a little after 10:30 in the morning for me, and it's a lovely break day to be here with all of you. So Kiva and Team Coacharya, thank you for including me and inviting me to this. So I've been part of the Coacharya community for the last 2.5, almost 3 years now. I first discovered Coacharya through LinkedIn, I think. All the algorithms were working because I was doing a lot of research at that point in time in the second half of 2019 for coach training courses and things like that. And Coacharya popped up one day in my feed, and I attended the webinars that I think that was part of your annual Colloquium that you were hosting. And I was hooked. And then in Jan of 2020, I responded to one of your open invitations on LinkedIn asking for a panelist, and you were doing a session on a webinar. The focus of that webinar was agile coaching, and that's the space I come from. And then the rest is history. I met Magda and Ram and Smita, and it's just been an absolutely wonderful journey. And so I've completed my PCC training with Coacharya, and my gurus were Karen Delk and Priya Ramesh. And in terms of credentials, I have my ACC, and I'm working towards my PCC, the hours, the 500 hours that we need. So I'm working towards that. at the moment. And I have my own coaching, mentoring training practice called NorthStar Solutions and Services. And it's intentionally, I've set it up as a virtual practice. So I have the privilege of working with clients from around the world. And that's one of the reasons I love Coacharya. To me, it's a perfect mesh of East and West. And I think it truly represents who I am as an individual. And so there was a lot of resonance with the brand and what Coacharya represents. So it's my honor to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi. It's a pleasure that you've been able to join us today. Thank you so much. Komal.
And lovely. I'm here in Mississauga, which looks very bright and sunny, although there's snow outside, but we are heading for a terrible weekend. As always, we were discussing with Gurbinder, like, that happens all the time. Week goes on fine, and then the weekend is always full of activities. Anyhow, so thank you so much, Kiva, again for joining, for including me for the last webinar for this year. Just like Meenakshi, I sort of landed on Coacharya while I was researching for the coach training programs. And one, I immediately sort of connect with the name and the logo because I could just get, what it really means. And of course, for me, the big hook was, again, the amalgamation of East and West and, all kind of model, like not sticking to a specific model for coaching, but to sort of integrate everything. So, as many diverse ways of learning and developing our coaching practice. And I never left.
I'm so glad.
I came in as a student, and as it kept sticking, somehow that association then culminated into being the associate trainer. And so I absolutely love what we do at Coacharya and where we would hopefully take it forward. And so happy to be sharing space with Gurbinder, Meenakshi, and you, Kiva.
Wonderful. Thank you, Komal. So I don't know if you all saw, but Komal and I just did a live today on Eastern philosophies. So as you were sharing right now about this, I was thinking, wow, it's literally been like, in a way, full circle, but it's like a concentric circle. It's just growing bigger and bigger. Thank you so much, Komal, for joining us today. So today's session, today's webinar is dedicated to celebrating coaching, celebrating the impact of coaching and the power that the space holds through the lens of our learners, our alums, our facilitators. So I want to just open up by asking you all to maybe look back at 2022. And when you think about coaching and what you experienced in 2022, could you share with us a word that best describes coaching for you?
One word is tough.
I hope the word is not going to be challenging.
No.
Challenge is to find the right word, the best word.
I'll make it easy. You can turn it into a sentence.
The word that comes to me is evolving. Evolve.
If I can go next, I think for me, the word would be illuminating, because through the coaching journey, I think I've learned so much more about my clients, both in corporate and in, pro bono sector. And while I have learned a lot and it has been illuminating for me, I've seen the same kind of revelations for people happening through coaching, like a lot of these ahas and a lot of knowing themselves and a lot of learning new ways of seeing themselves. So I would go with illuminating, like it's also illuminating my face right now.
And I think we also had the same aha when you use that word.
Yeah.
And actually, what about you?
I think the one word as hard as it was, I think for me it is co-creative or co-creation. And I think, and I always say this, that I was sold on coaching, not because of my own coach training, but because of my experience as a client, as a coachee, and the impact that it had on me. So to me, it's the coaching is amongst, or I would even go out and say it's the most impactful of human interactions, because on the outside it looks like it's just a conversation, but when done from a coaching stance, and when the coach and the client, it's almost like improv or a couple's dance, right? So one leads, one follows, and you don't know where it's heading, and that the magic of just being open to what emerges, and then the courage to deal with whatever emerges, because a lot of times I remember from my own coach, as a coachee, I may not have always liked what emerged, but then I would have had to have the courage to deal with it. So I think it's co-creation is my word, and then my sentence is that coaching is the most impactful, powerful of human interactions.
Amazing. So for our participants who joined in, when you hear the words evolving, co-creating, and illuminating, do share with us like what's emerging for you, what thoughts are coming to your mind, any questions are coming up for you. And before we get into the next part, I'd also just love for you also, Gurbinder, to share with us why you chose evolving as a word.
Yeah, I think when I thought of the word evolving, it is, I have seen coaching for the last 5 years or so, going through various life cycle, if I might use the word, if I might use the management philosophy here of, all products and all organization and all learning platforms go through a life cycle of growth, decline, maturity, decline. I think we are in a place where in 2022, especially after we came out of the pandemic scenario, we came out of a place where organizations were hit badly. In the last 12 months, I'm seeing coaching evolve as a profession very, very aggressively, very fast, very quick. The number of learners are increasing. All of a sudden, we find many coaching training organizations coming up with novel programs, distance learning programs, in-person programs. And I think every now and then I get to see a lot of pop-ups on my Instagrams and LinkedIn's of coaching tools and coaching books. And when I now visit the bookshops, which are my favorite destination to go to, I'm finding emerging a lot of coaching books, which was earlier more limited to HR and L&D. So I think 2022 is a year where, as a profession, coaching is evolving, and it's moving towards a much more organized, academic, much more resources available as a profession. A limited few, people using coaching accepted at various level of the organization. So I think the whole year I saw it evolving, it's growing, it's becoming different. I mean, I can use the word metamorphosis also for it, but that's what I feel. That's why the word evolve came to me.
Amazing. Wonderful. I think as you all were sharing, I also went through coach training this year for the foundation. I was thinking, so what's the word for me? I was very excitedly asked you this question. And I think the word that came to my mind was healing. And I think through the sessions that I've had, like Meenakshi shared, as a coachee, I saw the shift in me. And I was like, wow, there are parts of me that were actually kind of, needed healing, and I didn't even have that awareness. So I think when that shift happened within me, I felt the power to do something about it in my ecosystem, in my own ways. So I think, yeah, for me, the word is healing. And I can also see a few words I think that people have left here: flow, limitless, exploring the unknown, unlock,
I like what
unpeeling.
Cynthia has shared. She says unpeeling for me. It's,
Unpeeling.
yeah.
Wonderful. So as we're discussing this, it would be really, really lovely if we could hear from you about any story that you experienced that helped you to deepen your belief in the power of coaching, as you shared whatever it stands for you. Any story that comes to mind.
If I may,
Please.
this is actually from the first year that I started coaching. I think this was 2020, probably. Yeah. This was a pro bono coaching engagement, and it was a series of 6 or 8 sessions. And the client, it was virtual coaching. The client was based in Southeast Asia. And they started off the whole engagement with feeling unsure of what they wanted to do, feeling unsure of their, they had a lot going on, personal, professional, family related, and all of that. And they started off feeling very unsure of themselves, and also, low self-esteem and a whole bunch of things. And there was a point when I even questioned if I was the right fit for them as a coach. I felt like they could probably benefit more from a counselor, to be honest. And it was early on in my experience as a coach as well. And what really blew my mind was at the end of the engagement. It was right around Christmas time when the engagement ended. And my client let me know that they asked me if they could pay for X number of sessions of coaching for their family member with me. And so the reason I was blown away was, one, that they would even think about this. And so to me, it was like, okay, they see value in what I'm bringing to them, right? But more important, I sat back and reflected on it. This person went from feeling so helpless and at such low self-esteem and low confidence to completing that entire arc and coming at the other end, feeling like they could be a resource to someone else. And, finding that inside of them to, where they were able to think about others and how they could help others. That was truly transformational for me. And it was such a privilege to witness that. And I think the fact that the whole engagement was virtual and we just had these video conversations, they sent me a Christmas card, like an actual physical Christmas card. And that whole ask from them gave me a business idea, and I told them that. So to this day, every Christmas season, I do a holiday gift corner through my practice. So yeah. I announced that, and and then it's open on the website for people to gift coaching to others. So that's the impact that it left on me.
Wow. I saw your post and I was wondering, and I was like, oh, what is that? Like the holiday.
Yeah, it was from that first one of the first engagements.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Meenakshi.
Absolutely.
Komal, Gurbinder, if you'd like to go.
I'm just trying to sort through like, which experience do I share, because just like Meenakshi's, I had a similar experience where one of the coach friend sort of reached out to me to coach one of her family member. And then when I completing my engagements with this person, he now wants me to coach one of his like close in the family. And I was like, clearly something is working out for them. So that's something associated. But what really brings me, so I don't have any one particular story of a huge aha or something, but I think what tells me that coaching works and it's needed more and more is when I see my clients within conversations either sit back and give such expressions like speechless totally, and I'm like, yeah, something is now working out, now we are getting there. Or when we have like such conversations where we are just laughing, and my husband sometimes he says, like, you laugh so much with your clients, do you coach them or do what, or crack jokes? I said, that's the bond you develop when your clients really now start to get so comfortable with you that they make the best use of the space you're offering, the best use of the presence that has been created. So when my clients start to laugh with me in the conversations, I feel like, okay, yes, we are getting somewhere. Now things are sort of rolling. So I think, and what that has taught me, and it's actually a huge revelation for me, because not just in the pro bono spaces where I work with clients who come from really, really tough life situations and traumatic backgrounds, because normally we have this assumption that these are the people who probably have such bad experiences in life that they never got a safe space to express themselves or even explore themselves. No, even in corporate. And I was amazed. That's why I said this year was illuminating for me, because I figured that even in the corporate workspaces, in the fast-paced, goal-oriented, achievement-oriented life, people just don't find space to seeing themselves. There's so much of self-judgment that happens with people. And in a couple of instances, it happened that a client was narrating some situation where they were like, okay, I'm judging myself because this is so wrong, and how could I do this? And I'm just listening, and all I said was like, it's okay, but what's wrong in this? And I said, because I'm doing this. I said, well, given the situation you are in, you're supposed to behave like that. There's nothing out of ordinary here. And this person sat back and was like, nobody ever said this to me. And after that, he felt so relieved, as if a huge weight has been lifted off that person. And then I didn't need to do anything. And then that person, all that this person was wanting to hear was, you're not wrong. It's all right. It happens. It's natural and normal to happen. And I can't tell you how powerful this recognition or this acceptance becomes for people sometimes, and then they can sort of move into changing whatever needs to be changed. So I think for me, there are these very small short stories that have been more powerful than any one instance.
As you were sharing, Komal, I was thinking about, those moments that I've had, very few for me till now, but I still felt like, yeah, like, something is shifted. It's like that, like, okay, so thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let me also jump in with something which is, so I, as I said, I work in in Middle East, in Oman. And I had a colleague who was my subordinate, youngster boy. And when I did my first coaching training, I was looking for some hours, and I started to pick up people. And subordinates are the first one, the guinea pigs that you kind of reach out to, and the poor guys can't say no also. And one of those really wanted to do something, and he reached out to me And he said, I want to get coached. And we started talking. Now, this boy has been living in Middle East, in this country for whole his life. He's an Indian, but born in here, and he's like 27, 28 years of age. Comes from Kerala in India, but has never gone back. He doesn't even know where Kerala is. Perhaps for him, Middle East is home. And he works in a customer relationship department, but he loves to draw and sketch and paint. And beautiful paintings he makes, amazing painting. Then moved from paintings to tattoo. So he was doing tattoos, which is, completely learning from YouTubes and seeing other people. And he would travel to Bangkok and get a tattoo done. And he was getting into it. I want to be a tattoo artist. I want to be a tattoo artist. And in the coaching, when we started working together, this guy got a breakthrough, like, what am I doing here? And my call in life is to be a tattoo artist. And now I have a dual dilemma, because one, I am his boss. So if I let him go, he goes away. And I have coached him to do what he wants to do with his life. And so I'm like, okay, fine, got it. And then he came up to me about a month later and he said, listen, boss, we had that amazing conversation, and I've decided I'm leaving the job. I'm going out to get my tattoo training done and then become a tattoo artist. And in the last 1 year, that boy completed all kind of tattoo certifications, piercing certifications, and now he's running a studio in Kerala, a highly successful studio. And celebrities from all over the country are going to him to get paintings and tattoos done on their skin. When he was getting graduated from his tattoo college, he made a call to me from India, from Bombay. And on that call, neither he spoke anything nor I spoke anything, but he cried. And he cried and I cried on the other side of the phone. And I said, this is really the magic of coaching. This is making people different. It's giving them what they really were looking for. And maybe one conversation or one statement here and there gave him his dream. And he's living his dream now. One of my favorite stories in coaching for me so far.
Wow. Beautiful, really beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah. That's what I really connect with what you said, Gurbinder, is that it's most of the times it's just giving permission to people to be who they know they are within the depths of themselves. So in some way, it offers that space, it gives that permission, which they probably have never got to be.
Absolutely.
So well said. Absolutely. Love that story, Gurbinder. It's like the visual I had was, literally like taking wings and flying away.
Yeah.
That's the visual I had. And something that you said, Komal, earlier, with your clients, like in this goal-oriented, achievement-oriented. I wrote those words down in the space that we are in, especially in the corporate world. One of my clients, he's a technology leader, and this coaching conversation was part of the training that I was doing for the company. And so this 1 hour, one session was offered to every participant. And first of all, I never thought that this leader would take up that opportunity because of how he came through during the training sessions, right? And no judgments, observations, like how busy they were and all of that. So not only did this leader take up the opportunity for this one-on-one coaching conversation, and towards the end, they also said, you know what? I don't think I've ever spent an hour just talking about my goals and aspirations at the workplace. I have not answered a single Slack message in the last 60 minutes. Right? So interruptions rule our lives, and then all these things that we have to do, our to-do lists rule our lives. And so that was a big awareness for themselves. And I felt that they had successfully converted to being a believer in coaching because of what they experienced during that 1 hour of conversation, and so much clarity that they walked away with. That was truly just, it was such a, and to me, that's the privilege, I think, as a coach, to be a witness at such close quarters to transformations that sometimes can happen during a conversation, or sometimes can happen over a period of a period of months. So that it came back to me, and that's one of the things I talk about in my coaching philosophy, in my practice. Is, for me, it's always about, I say, stop, breathe, think, act. That's my motto, and bringing the focus back on slowing down to speed up. And I think that's such a big need in the corporate space for that. And I think that coaching as an intervention, as a tool, really creates that time and space for people to do that. When a prospective client wants to understand what coaching is, I always tell them that it's really a conversation with yourself that's facilitated by a coach in a safe space. And then this experience with this leader really sort of reinforced that for me. Just want to share that. Both of you, when you shared, it triggered that conversation back for me. Thank you.
And I would say it's very interesting because while I do facilitation work, of course, there are observations and a lot of direct feedback. And then when I'm doing one-on-one coaching with the corporate clients, I just ask them by the end of our engagement is like, okay, so what do you think really worked for you in these conversations? And so many times I've heard them saying, just the ability to hash out everything that was therein and to look at it from a different perspective has made it. So although you say that just doing that, and most of the times we also go for those mindset, oh, it's just this. But then that just is such an important piece in somebody's transformation. So we really cannot take for granted the ability to have this this space with somebody who is absolutely non-judgmental and is just sitting there noticing and seeing you, addressing, sounding it back to you what they are seeing without any agenda behind that, and just noticing and observing. And I think it's a huge value, which is not just, but very important.
So true, so true. Yeah. It's lovely to see some comments here. I was reading that as well. There's a lot of resonance.
Gurbinder, your story has given goosebumps.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think as I was hearing to all the stories, I got reminded of two very small ones that I'll just very quickly share. So I think in one of the webinars a few months back, the panel member, it was about something else, but this thing about coaching came in, and the panel member shared that the most beautiful thing that I like about the coaching space is that there's no competition. The more the community grows, the more each person's vision comes alive, and that's actually the collective vision of the community. And yesterday I had a coaching conversation where I actually saw that happen. So I learned to practice somewhere, and that person said, if you ever do try it, let me know how it goes, if you also try it as a coach. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot and let's see how this coaching conversation goes. And it went really well. That's what I heard from the client. She thought it was really powerful, and some things have shifted for her. She's also a coach. We're from the same cohort, so we were peer coaching, learning, coaching each other. And we were both just so excited because she was like, oh my God, you learned something new and you've taught me this. And I was like, oh my God. And she was like, when you learn something new next time, make sure you, practice with me. So I learned this from you. And we were literally jumping, we were like, oh my God, we just learned something new, and I don't think I have personally witnessed that kind of joy in sharing something and celebrating that together. It's like, you moved up a level, and it's so exciting to see that. So, yes. So, I
Kiva,
was...
something you said just now, it reminded me of Professor David Clutterbuck. If you don't follow him on LinkedIn, please do. He just celebrated his 75th birthday, and he's been in this space for 5 decades almost now. He said, if you don't evolve as a person, you don't evolve as a coach.
Yeah.
And that's what came up for me when you shared, like, how you celebrate one another and you celebrate each other's successes and progress. There's no competition at all. And to me, that's us evolving as human beings. And as a coach, it just shows up. And I think that I do want to share this, my personal experience as a learner coach in the Coacharya community. I saw someone asking about peer coaching. So if you don't know already, Coacharya does peer coaching sessions on a regular basis. So you can visit the website and find out. But I struggled with peer coaching to some extent because I could not go to a coaching conversation just to practice a particular skill or a particular technique. I had to have a real conversation. So unless I had something that was real for me to talk through in a coaching conversation, and I also struggled as a coach if it felt at any point that my peer coach was just practicing something with me, like they were using the same situation just to help me practice. So unless it was an authentic conversation, I struggled with peer coaching, and so I know it's taken me longer to log my hours, but that's totally fine because it doesn't sit well with me as a human being first. And so I've noticed ever since with my coach training and being on this journey that who I show up as a coach is who I am as an individual. And if there is any sort of dissonance between the two, then I'm not of service to my client. So that's something that came up for me as you shared all that.
I absolutely agree with that, Meenakshi. And I would say that when I was doing the coach training program, I was like very selfishly, hungrily get into the peer coaching and say, I have to resolve all my life problems now. And bring in the life issues and till the time I feel like, okay, now that I have to resolve it. So, be very vulnerable and bring everything, and then make use of these opportunity in this community that we have, and say, okay, yes, this problem is getting resolved today.
Yes.
And
Yes.
with that collaboration thing, Kiva, I want to share one more thing. So while doing the training program, I also found out about Theory U through Coacharya community only. And then I went on and joined the Theory U program by Otto Schrammer. And in that program, there was a particular technique called coaching circle. So for all those people who have attended the coaching circle, or if not, then I would strongly recommend go and do that. What you do is, so one person brings in the agenda to talk in every coaching circle, and there are 4 or 5 other people as coaches who are just listening, observing, and either you would scribble something or you'll draw something or anything. And then after this person has explained the situation, everybody would just sound it back in their own view. Somebody would have created a picture, somebody would have thought in terms of a poem or something, how you connect. And it'll be so surprising that although all the people have their own way of thinking and their own way of expressing how they connect to that situation, somewhere all the viewpoints and all the different ideas sort of help that person to find a solution or find whatever they are trying to look for. So when you said that there is no competition in this space but collaboration, that's what I was thinking that yes, actually, because it's not in what you as a coach are bringing to the person. The way I look at it, it's more in what's there between you and that person. So that connection, that bond, that relationship is what makes something possible in the coaching space. And with each individual, you would be making or creating a different bond. So the quality of that bond with different people. So one person getting coached on the same issue by 10 different coach will definitely take away 10 different perspectives, 10 different ideas, and they all will work in one way or another.
Yeah. Beautifully shared. Thank you, Komal.
Gurbinder, you are like smiling silently.
These are such profound, perspectives, and I'm just reflecting on it. I'm listening to Meenakshi and Komal, both of you, and these. I think the reason why each one of us choose to follow coaching as a competency or learn about coaching, for each person it's different. And what I am present to right now is that uh, everybody uses the same competencies or the same certifications or same accreditations, but the results are so different. So it's like becoming a doctor, I would say, and then each patient is different, if I may use that word, or each person who comes to us is. And I really like the metaphor here of a homeopathic doctor. The kind of questions that they ask. Most of us come from the Indian subcontinent, and we understand the detailed questions they ask about. I have migraine, and once I went to a homeopathic doctor, and he asked, "So, what kind of pain do you have?" And I said, "What do you mean, what kind of a pain? It's a very bad pain." And he said, "No, there are actually 73 kinds of pain." And I said, "What? Are you serious?" He says, "Yeah." And I said, "So what are these 73? I never knew them." And so he says, "Let me give you some." He said, "There is pulsating pain, there is vibrating pain, there is a shooting pain, there's hammer pain." And I said, "Okay, so next time I'm going to have migraine, I'll write down what kind of pain I have." So he says, "Exactly, because unless you tell me what type of pain you experience, I cannot give you the right medicine." And I think coaching is so close to this kind of a practice that while we have the same, maybe two people have the similar issues, but they're not same. When you start to ask them, when you start to go deeper into the conversations with them, and the results that they will get and the solutions that they will get will be so different from each other. And I think that's the beauty of this profession, is that while we all will get ACC certificate credential or a PCC credential, but then that same credential can do different things for different people. It's not a one size fit all kind of a thing. So it's a amazing profession. I'm so happy to be in it. And at the same time, I also have a little bit of a disconnect here, because all professions go through, I use the word evolving. Sometimes it becomes over commercialized, and things lose their authenticity. Things lose their, like medicine and education were two of the most noble professions, and see what has happened to them. Today, education is the biggest business, and medicine is is a business where you can't really go. I only hope that this doesn't happen to coaching. While every professional needs to earn his bread, it needs to come at a respectable compensation for the service that we are putting in. I just hope that profession does not lose its nobility, its genuineness somewhere in future. It's evolving, and I pray that it evolves the right way.
That's such a great call out, and such an important one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere that also ties into like, what is our respective purpose to get into coaching and opt for it. But slowly and gradually, I also see this like coaching also as a profession, but then coaching also sort of disseminating as a way of learning and a way of being in world. Because and also sort of started to see that now in more and more corporate work, in facilitation work, this coaching mindset and talking about that is happening quite a lot, so that people can benefit really from a certain way of being. And one thing which I think is, I feel like it's somehow, maybe it's my love for what I do, which is sort of biasing me a little bit. But I see that inherently in coaching, this way of being of a coach, you know, it is impacted quite a lot by what are your deeper beliefs and how you come across. So if you really want, not say want, but if you're really an effective coach, you just cannot be that profession oriented, because this mindset is completely different. You cannot even reach at that growth stage without letting go of some of these I would say drives, like from drive to we need to move more to the purpose orientation. So I just hope that we all find our ways to go to that space. But it's quite very well pointed out, Gurbinder. We need to be watching out ourselves for that first, and then to the others. Yeah.
And you know, I come from the technology space, technology implementation, and primarily in the healthcare. That's what I've done for the last 12 years. And agile product and software development is one of the pieces that one of the spaces that I've been in. And those of you that are familiar with that, those of you on this call that are familiar with that, and others who will watch the recording, I'm pretty sure you know anybody and everybody, pretty much anybody and everybody that works in this space will call themselves an agile coach, for example. You go on LinkedIn and you'll find, you know, millions of profiles that call themselves that. What does it really mean to be that? There's very little focus, and it's also because of how the market has, commercialized certifications and credentials and all of that. Because a lot of hiring in these spaces are directed by credentials. That's like your base criteria of whether you even make it to an interview, right? And being in the US, I'm seeing a lot of that happening in the professional coaching space as well. Every third person calls themselves a coach, and there's all kinds of coaches, right? Nothing wrong with that. But to your point, Gurbinder and Komal, it is how authentically are you representing yourself when you call yourself that? I think that's a question for all of us to answer. And for me personally, as I'm investing more and more in this space and taking this to be my next phase in my career, yes, I'm very aware that I have bills to pay and I have commitments to keep. But at the same time, I think the one question that's really helped me through this process is, what am I okay with not achieving, or what am I okay with not having? And what is my, what's a comfortable number in terms of income that I need to keep earning, given that, you don't know what the future holds. So really having those honest conversations with myself, and also recruiting my folks in my household around that, because others can also have aspirations for you, right? And so what does that mean for us as a household, and having these conversations with my spouse also, and then discovering that, oh my God, we want totally different things in the next phase of our life. What do you do with that? So I think to both of your points, if you're really invested in being a coach and making that your career, first of all, there's room for everyone. The pie is large enough for everyone. So I really appreciate you bringing that point, Kiba. And I think that there's space for everyone, but at the same time, yes, you're running a business or your practice, but you purpose sort of takes over the numbers or the finances. And I think that if you go into it with a sense of from a place of abundance and from a place of service, you will attract the kind of clients that you're looking for.
Very nicely said. I appreciate it. Wonderful.
Thank you.
And I completely am with you on that, Meenakshi, because I've seen it in my personal life. Like, I made huge changes in my life in last few recent years where I completely sort of let go of the industry where I'd worked for 15, 16 years and made a shift to coaching where I was, sort of new, and then moved from the country. I was born, brought up, raised,
I
and
remember
worked.
that.
Completely new country altogether. Don't know how to find my roots and bearings and all. But I would say, and in between, I did go through that phase as well, where financially I've been in a space where I was like, I had every reason to be scared and terrified and say, oh, what is going to happen? That too, when I have growing children alongside me. But I can say from my personal experiences, when you are really clear, when you are aligned to your purpose in life, money is not a problem. It comes from places you wouldn't even think, imagine, or plan or strategize, because strategy is just this limited mental framework. There is a larger framework around us which is working. What do you believe? Is it working for your growth and your development, or is it not working with you? I think that is the key. That is very, very important, because within our own minds, we tend to go to those spaces like, oh my God, I'm alone. Oh my God, I have to do this. Oh my God, I have to strive. If I won't do this, this will not happen. Well, sometimes all you need to do is just shut up and sit back and let things happen for you. And so that just sit back and see, okay, which door is opening for me? Where do I need to go? And that will only happen when we stop falling in this bracket of, running through our desires. Because one thing which I have learned, and I sort of drill it in my children, is that, the world has enough to fulfill everybody's needs, but the world will never have enough to fulfill even one single person's desires, wants.
Okay.
So it's our choice whether we go through our needs or we continue to keep looking at our desires and wants. So I think when we get into professions like this, not even like coaching, any person, I think, who would want to choose a purpose-oriented life will have to eventually come to that space and to do all those question askings, Meenakshi, that you said. And so I think that's a realization that we need to face at some point.
Yeah, it made me realize that I am my biggest client as a coach.
Wow. I feel so lucky as, sorry, Meenakshi.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, I feel so lucky that, I mean, I'm getting to actually hear all of this and just be surrounded, by people who actually have these kind of thoughts. Like, as I was listening to all of you, I'm feeling so positive that, there is goodness, there is abundance, and there are people who think like that, and if this amplifies and the ripple effect of what this can create amplifies, it'll only make like more healing spaces, happier spaces, more abundant spaces, because I think people are content with, who they are, where they are, you know. Komal, you just shared right now, you said purpose oriented, and I was just thinking that how would you like to connect that to 2023? We're getting into a new year. There's so much that everybody is looking forward to in the new year, and it's the time when we're setting goals and thinking of, oh my God, this has to happen. Like you said, right? The oh my gods keep adding up. So how are you all looking at 2023? Like, what's on your mind? I like that response.
Who would like to go first? Okay, I'll go first. I would say plans and resolutions have never worked for me. I don't make them anymore because they are mostly very limiting. So what I do is for 2023, I said, first of all, I hope to be alive and kicking and happy. And I always have these, just whispers like, okay, so now that we are reflecting back, okay, this is what we have learned and gained from this year. Next year definitely would be different from that. And definitely would be like building upon what we've already sort of learned and gained. What it's going to be for me, it is always in terms of my core values. Now, how those values are going to manifest, personally, I do not put it like a goal statement ever.
Sorry, Komal. I think I didn't state my question well. I think what I was curious to know about was like, how does the coaching space look like for you in 2023? Like, as you're getting into it. Like, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So it's not a recent development, but I actually gotten into coaching from a life coach's perspective. So my thing was never to be called an executive coach or a leadership coach or something. It just happened so that route came and I took, keeping in line with what Gurbinder said and Meenakshi, and just now we were talking about like you have to earn and you have to keep the things going as well. But still, I find a lot of my interest going into the spaces of life coaching, and especially more so in the position of trauma and a lot of this work. And although a lot of people would say that, this is a space for the therapists or counselors, but I personally believe that coaches do have a space in this field of trauma as well, because I have personally experienced that. I have seen traumatized people working in corporate also who need a very different kind of approach into the coaching. And I've also met persons outside of corporate in other fields coming from a trauma experience, but using coaching space to their advantage and getting benefited by it as well. So for me, yes, some bit of corporate coaching is definitely going to happen. But for me, I think I would be actively exploring more and more into what I can do in that space of, like you said, Kiva, healing. Like how actively we can make it more healing aid than anything else. Yeah, that's what it's going to look like for me.
Gurbinder, Meenakshi, if you'd like to also share.
I think for me, 2023 I have just started the internal coaching program at my organization. And I have started to build up new coaches. Very interestingly, some of the local Arab men and women are picking up those competencies. So for me, this is the year of creating the coaching culture in the organization where I work, and extending the the magic of coaching and celebrate coaching across the organization.
Great.
Fantastic. So I do have and then I was just thinking it's fantastic for the attendees because you are hearing different perspectives. So mine is a bit of that and then something else, bit of what both of you shared and then something else. So Komal, like you, I have learned over the years to not do goals but more intentions. So I'm moving towards setting intentions to that space. But in the past year was the first time I actually I wrote down a number in terms of the income that I wanted to have through my practice. And I said, this is my number, not just through my practice. Overall, this is the number, this is the amount of money I'd like to make, gross revenues for this year. And I've diversified it. I do different things. And while I'm still working towards building NorthStar as my practice, NorthStar Solutions and Services, as my 100% primary source of income. So writing that down actually worked for me. And at the end of the year, I did my math, and I almost met that number, which I was quite surprised by. Right? I didn't realize it as I was going through, but I did different things. Right? Yeah, thank you. So that was a sense of accomplishment, because this is the first time where I really set those financial goals. So I want to continue to do that this year. And I'm also looking at, so it'll be a mix, like you said, it's corporate work, working with individuals. But then my focus and the reason why I got into coaching has been in the professional space, to see how focusing on people and really focusing on ourselves as humans first, and how are we existing in harmony with our ecosystem that includes the planet. So how can businesses start thinking? And I'm deeply, deeply influenced by Professor Peter Hawkins' work, the eco-aware model. That was one of the first live webinars I attended from Coacharya. I still remember it vividly. And so how can businesses really start thinking take a systems view of everything, and how might we really bring humanity back into our places of work? And so I come from a DEI lens, diversity, equity, inclusion lens. And I also specifically want to continue to work with mid-career leaders, because I think in most organizations, they bear the brunt from both sides, because they're the messy middle or the frozen middle, whatever terms you want to use. And unfortunately, on the flip side, they're amongst the least supported by structured L&D initiatives, learning and development initiatives, professional development initiatives within organizations. There's a lot of support for newcomers, the fresh graduates, and there's a lot of support, company paid coaching for executives. And so, and which is why I was intentional about not calling myself an executive coach, because I think that makes it very exclusive. And my goal is to make coaching very accessible to everyone. So I focus on the mid-career folks. So I want to continue to do that work. And in this coming year, one of my other intentions is to really make what I do as a profession, make my work fit in with everything else in my life rather than the other way around. I think I've spent a quarter of a century doing the other way around. And so I want to flip that. And in that, having said that, I'm intending to spend time in India this year and really figure out what are some ways in which I can be part of the ecosystem, of the coaching ecosystem in India as well, in addition to what I do in the US. So those are some things I'm looking forward to.
Wow, absolutely inspiring. Thank you so much for just being who you are, and for choosing coaching and allowing coaching to choose you as well in this space, and just, I think, bringing your most purposeful and authentic selves to this space. I'm truly feeling really lucky that I had this conversation with you. I hope the community feels the same way. I'm sure they do. I'm seeing that the chat has been very active. Thank you so much for joining in, and thank you to all our participants for coming in today. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hope you all have an absolutely fantastic 2023, and do close out 2022 with all the things that you want to celebrate from the coaching world, from outside the coaching world, and would be lovely to also hear from you all on what has been inspiring for you. So thank you so much, Meenakshi, Gurbinder, Komal, for joining in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
is
Thank you
such
so
a
much.
pleasure.
Lovely to meet you, Meenakshi, again, and Gurbinder, you especially.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.